This is the 18.
Right fucking now. The reason 18 and 19-year-olds are more attractive than 25-year-olds is because they've been through less dick. I'll say this right here on the fucking internet. I don't give a shit. People will sit there and go, oh, you can't say that. Yes, I can. A 19-year-old is more attractive than a 26-year-old woman, and I'll tell you why. Because that 26-year-old has talked to more guys, been to the club more times, been more places, been fucked and dumped more times, more arguments, more heartbreak, more bullshit, more mess for me to clean up. Whereas a 19-year-old might have had one guy from high school, just broke up, she's fresh, and I can fucking put my imprint on her and make her a good person, and without her having to go through all that detriment to learn about life.
So what's your key age range? 19 to...
It's not just about the age range.
Just the example.
So I know one thing we can stop
preference?
here. I mean, one thing I will say where I think he is wrong here is I think that the vision of a 19-year-old who, you know, oh, she's only been with one guy, that's not the case anymore. You've got 19-year-old women who have been around the block.
Right about that.
I mean, more times than I have today as a 43-year-old. I mean, it's wild. The promiscuity has bled down to a very, very young age bracket. So, you know, I came out of, I always tell my story, and I remember talking to Adam, and Adam saying, you're an outlier. You can't use you as an example.
Jedediah keeps
But I came out of college. I had been with one guy.
Jedediah keeps emphasizing this, that she's hasn't been with that many men, which makes me think that she has been with a lot of men. Because to make a lie believable, you have to repeat it many, many times. And that's what she's doing. She keeps repeating this thing. And the previous episode that I broke down with her and Rolo, it was a similar theme to what she was saying. She kept insisting that she had led a very traditional life and she hadn't been with that many men. And she kept insisting it, which makes it a little bit suspect for me.
You know, one guy. That was my experience. That was important to me. That was what...
Cap. Don't let any of these Western tradcon women fool you. Women like her, especially women like her.
I prioritize. Talk to girls coming out of...
Since she has the crazy eyes also. Look at her eyes, man. That's the 1,000-cock stare right there. She's been with at least 20 to 25 dudes. Sexually. At least. Bare minimum. So don't let these tradcon women like Jedediah Bila fool you.
College now, good luck finding a 19-year-old who has that same way. So I think his perception of a 19-year-old...
Look at those eyes, man. She's got the 1,000-cock stare. 100%, bro. She's been ran through. 100%
world is actually not terribly accurate for this moment. But I think the larger point of saying that a woman is...
And I also want to say that she's aged tremendously since the last podcast I saw her on. Maybe she hasn't did her makeup or whatever. I don't know. I don't think she had makeup on last time either, but there's a significant change since the last time I saw her, which was maybe like a month ago. So she's aged tremendously. I don't know what it is, why, but I've also, to my understanding, I also know, from what I've read, is the more sex a woman has with more men, the more testosterone builds up in her system, and that testosterone ages women.
More attractive. The way I interpreted what he said is I said, okay, a woman is more attractive if she has been more selective, has had more self-respect, hasn't been around the block a million times, hasn't given away the goods too easily, and has saved herself for experiences that matter. Women don't, promiscuous women, modern feminists may not like that point, but that is a reality. And I think that for men, that is something. I know my husband has had that conversation with me many times, that he very much appreciates the way I chose to live my life.
And that's based off what you've said. The only evidence he has that you've led that traditional life that you claim is your word. And we know that people lie. Men lie, women lie. So the only evidence we have that she has been a pious and traditional woman, as she claims, is her own word. Because back then, when Jedediah was young, there was no Instagram, there's no Facebook. So a lot of these modern day women, their thought records is online. Their street history is all on Facebook, all on Instagram, all on Snapchat. And it's going to be there forever. But women like Jedediah, the Gen X women, the boomer women, they were able to get away with being hoes because there's no social media back then.
that was very valuable to him. So this is another example where immediately, and you know who gets offended, Rolo? I'll tell you. Women who've slept with everybody on earth hear this and they're like, what? What is he saying about me? Take a moment and self-reflect. Yeah, he's talking to you, and he's probably
She's right about that. She's right about that.
Well, he's right in okay, so what he's really kind of dancing around is what I call the alpha widow dynamic. Okay, what that means is that women imprint upon the guy who is the most alpha dude that is in their sort of the guys who they've had sex with in their notch count. Okay, so a girl, I mean, technically speaking, and I understand, I completely agree with you, because I've been on Fresh and Fit where I've been sitting next to 19-year-olds who have a 15 to 20 body count already at 19. They are upfront and open with it all, so that's what they're saying. So I agree with you. However, I will say this is that we've had these episodes before. I've done them on my show. I've done them on Fresh and Fit, where we talk about the importance of women's promiscuity, like why is promiscuity still important to guys today, even in this environment, even in today's society. Well, the alpha widow dynamic, it goes something like this: is the more men that a woman has been with over the course of her her sexual history, the more the more chance, so the greater the pool of guys who made that imprint upon her or have given her that baggage. So the more that woman has slept with those guys, the more, just statistically speaking, the odds are, if she's got 10 or 20 in her backfield, one of those guys or three of those guys made an alpha impression upon her that the guy who's next in line is going to have to overcome, because he's got to out alpha the guy that is sort of the ghost of alpha's past, right? And so that's the idea. So I always say this: it's not so much a numbers game as it is like an alpha impact game. So if you've got a woman who's got like 3 prior lovers, okay, and you got a girl who's got 10 prior lovers, but the girl with 3 had 1 or 2 of those guys who were just like the most alpha guy that just left her, she can't get over it. She pines for that guy. He's the one that got away, and you're the next one in line.
Jedediah is smiling because she's had those guys in the past. Look, she's dreaming about them right now, and she's stuck with this guy. Well, let me show you what Jedediah's husband looked like. Jedediah Bila husband. This is her husband, bro. This is the man she married. Let me pull up a bigger picture. This guy, bro. This is her husband. So of course she's dreaming about the fucking alphas that she's been with in the past, because she's saddled up with this guy now. And this is the problem, because women end up marrying this guy in their 30s, but they bang the Chads and Tyrones in their 20s. And then they have this face when reminded of such experiences. Look, she's thinking about it right now.
And you've got to find some way to outclass that, the memory, the fantasy.
She's daydreaming about the dick she had in college, bro. Right now,
of
she's
that
thinking
guy.
about it. Look,
or would you rather
look at
be
her
with the girl
face.
that's 10 and none of those guys really made all that big of a deal, or
She's dreaming of the long pipe she had.
were all that big an impact, or maybe they were beta,
And now she's got Mr. Shrimp Dick over here.
or maybe they were one night stands or whatever, and you're the guy who can very easily come in there and form a relationship with that woman because she doesn't have any real alphas in her backfield. So it's really an alpha impact game, it's rather than a numbers game. However, odds are that if she's got 10, most likely one of those 10 is probably going to be the guy who's like, she just can't get over.
And we don't want to compete with all the ghosts of all the alpha males that you ladies have been with. Even a top level guy like me, I know I check almost all of the boxes, and I still don't want to compete with like 20 dudes or some rapper that you banged in the past, or a basketball player if you're a hot chick. Like, that's not appealing. And we men, we're highly competitive. Not that women don't compete with each other, y'all certainly do, but we're even more competitive, and we don't like even imagining that some guy was better than us in your past.
That's what he's trying to describe.
That's also one of the reasons we don't want a woman with a high body count
here. But
and that's just the truth.
Everybody, once they hear this, they say, oh.
And so any guy who's going to be like, oh, well, I'm the best. It doesn't matter if she's been with 100 guys. I'm the best she's ever had. Yeah. Good luck with that, buddy. Good luck with filling that void.
What's your age range? They want to turn him into like a pedophile. They want to turn him into like a young, you know, you're that's why we have this concept, by the way, of what, half plus 7. Like you're not age appropriate. You're not with a woman who you should be with.
That's all bullshit. Don't ever let women, especially older women, shame you into not dating younger chicks and dating their old asses instead. I was at this weed shop. I was picking up some chronic. And there's this hot Asian chick who works at the till. She's like maybe 20, 21. And every time I go there, you know, she compliments me on the Gucci shades. She compliments me on my outfit. So I'm like, you know, next time I go in there, I'm going to ask this chick for a number. Because I'm a go-getter. I'm a killer. I go in for the kill. You know, if a chick's giving me an opening, I'm going to go in for it. So one day I go in, it's her and this fat, old, white Karen looking like bitch. This old, Hagrid looking like bitch. So she's sitting next to her in the counter. And this time the Asian chick's a little bit more reserved for whatever reason. But I go in for the kill anyways. I'm like, you know, can I have your Instagram? And then she looks to the side. And I think that fat old lady was the manager maybe. So she was a little bit reserved this time. She's like, I have a boyfriend. So I was like, oh, okay, no problem. No worries. And then I was like, okay, cool, no problem. She goes to the back, gets me my weed. And as she's in the back, the old fat lady, the Karen, she goes, she's a bit too young for you. And I'm like, how old do you think I am? And she goes, 30. Well, she was kind of close. I'm 29. So I'm 29. This girl's like 20, 21. And or at least 19, because you got to be 19 to work in a shop like that. So this girl is at least 19, maybe 20, 21 in my estimation. And this old Karen thinks that I'm too old for this chick, which is not the case. And she's trying to shame me for doing what a man does. Be attracted to younger girls. And younger girls like older guys. I mean, she was hitting on me before every single time. This time, I guess she didn't, because the manager was there. And this old woman is just, she's jealous and mad because nobody hits on her. She works there the whole day. Not a single person asks her for non-existent Instagram. She probably doesn't even have IG because she's fucking ugly and fat and old. You know what I'm saying? These bitches think that they think that we should want women our own age or older or old hags like her with dried up eggs. She's trying to shame me for my natural instincts. Don't let these women shame you at all. It's always older feminists or older ugly bitches who nobody wants to fuck complaining about guys wanting younger, hotter, tighter things.
You should be like a guy who's 30 should not be with an 18-year-old. A guy who's 40 should not be with a 28-year-old. Whatever the age range happens to be. You're still an adult. She's an adult. You're an adult. So it's like you're consenting adults. So why would that make any difference? Well,
they're just haters. These old bitches are haters because nobody gives them any attention. They know their time's past. They know they're past their best before date. So they're just angry and vitriolic and spiteful.
It doesn't to guys, but it does for women because women age out of the sexual marketplace.
Exactly.
And that's what rubs them the wrong way. Another unflattering truth about the differences between men and women that they're being reminded of, and it makes them feel bad at the end of that conversation.
So, you know, from talking to me, you know,
You know what? I'm going to go back to that shop, get that Asian girl's number, have sex with her just to piss off that fat, ugly bitch.
Sat together, and that I don't like promiscuity either way. I don't like it in women. I don't like it in men. I'm very deep into self-respect for your body. So I don't like flippant sex. That's just not something that I think really helps anyone.
I think her face tells me that she's being disingenuous. She's lying through her teeth. I know when a person's lying. And I know that Jedediah is an undercover hoe. 100%. I know women like Jedediah. I've been with women like Jedediah. I know exactly what she's like.
Long term, that's how I feel about it. But I'm curious your perspective. Do you feel, though, that you were talking about, you know, different men who can make an imprint on a woman, for example, throughout the years? Do you feel that it could be the reverse as well? Like, could there be a guy then who dated or went out with, you know, 10 women, 12 women and got hurt several times along the way, and now he's got all the baggage, and that becomes problematic for the woman in his life, as opposed to a guy who had been around the block less times, has less baggage. Does it work both ways in your mind?
I would say no, and I'll explain to you why. Because men do not place they don't place the degree of importance upon sex as women do. Simply because women's biological nature is to invest emotionally in the guy that she's having sex with on some level. If a woman doesn't do that, like say she works in the porn industry, she has to be trained and conditioned to sort of put her emotions on hold and say, this is just a sex act. I'm just doing something with my body. It's like sports, right? For men, that the reason why guys get addicted to pornography is because our innate sexual strategy is unlimited access to unlimited sexuality. And what provides that? Vicarious pornography. That's why it's free. That's why it's streaming. That's why it's 4K. Right. So when guys are thinking about sex, we can dissociate ourselves from the emotional connection that women innately evolved to have, because having sex in our evolutionary past meant that woman could possibly get pregnant. And if she did, that could be a death sentence. Even if she picked the right guy, she has to emotionally invest in him. That's why women have much more proclivity for like sexual revulsion. That's why they are very much more selective. That's why they are the quote unquote gatekeepers of sex, right? They have a filter for guys who are creeps. They have a filter for guys who are like the hot guy. The good opportunity is just as important as the guy who is the creep, who she just wants to simply stay away from. It's a neurological mechanism of women's psyches to invest more emotionally and personally in sex, because they are the ones with the higher reproductive cost. For men, it's the wind blows and we get a hard on, right? We have to hit it and quit it. But what did John say? It was ejaculate and evacuate, and we had to do that.
Ejaculate and evacuate, smash and dash.
Because we had to be very efficient, opportunistic breeders in our evolutionary past. As a result, men do not have the same emotional investment into sex that women do. And so take that and fast forward that to 2022, where we're having this conversation right now. And do men not have like women that they pine for or think is their soulmate? Yeah, until the next girl comes along and rocks their world in bed, or the next girl that comes around and she seems like she's someone that he wants to invest in. They do not pine for women or for their past partners if they do, in the same way that women do, because they have already created that emotional investment in the guy who is the best that she can do. So if it's like, oh, he's the best that I can, he's the one that got away. Even Katy Perry has like some song called "The One That Got Away."
Yes.
Or if you look at like the end of Titanic, where Rose has the heart of the diamond and everything. She's had this wonderful life from some beta provider, but she still can't get over Jack, who's in the bottom of the ocean in an icy grave. And at the end of the movie, it's like she's reunited in death with that guy, not the guy who provided her this luxurious lifestyle and grandchildren and everything else. It's the dude that's at the bottom of the ocean. That's to the point where they're creating mythology and stories about that dynamic. So that's the difference.
And she tosses that diamond back into the ocean in his memory, instead of selling that diamond to support her husband and her daughters and the man who's been basically supporting and providing for this bitch his whole life. She's not gonna use the diamond to help him, but instead throw it into the ocean, because she just can't get over that one time she got her back blown out on that sunken ship in the back of that Ford Model T.
Between men and women when it comes to emotional investment in sex or otherwise.
Yeah, which I think is I remember going through a period in my life where I was looking at everyone around me and I said, God, it would be so much easier if I could just be like them. They were just kind of unattached, and they would go around and they would sleep with guys. And what I realized at some point is that they weren't doing it very well. It was weighing on them a lot. It wasn't their natural inclination to be that way. They were trying to fit into a paradigm that they thought also would be easier. And a lot of those women were very unhappy having these one-night stands, because it never felt like a one-night stand. It felt like it was the one-night stand where you hoped to get the text the next day. It was the one-night stand where you wondered if he was going to call again. And that's just not the nature of a one-night stand. Now you're wanting that one-night stand to turn into some type of relationship. So I think
women always hope and expect for more. They'll give you the pussy if they think you're high value enough, and if they're attracted to you enough, they'll give it up. But they always want more, whether it's attention or that text back in the morning or your money, worst case scenario. They always want something in exchange.
It is. I think women and men are hardwired differently. I think that it's from my perspective, it's a very good thing when women and men come together in a monogamous relationship and make a commitment and decide to have a child.
But the problem is, Jedediah, the women are not doing that till their late 30s. Women like you bang the football players in high school, the Pookies and Ray Rays, the rappers with Hellcats, and 3 felonies and 2 baby mamas. You fuck those guys, and then when you're like 29, then you settle.
Child and create a conventional family.
Then you find this guy, and then you settle with him, and then you remain unhappy, and then you're miserable, and you make the guy's life miserable, and he never understands why, and you never figure it out either. Why you can't respect this after you had the best of the best. You might have had him only temporarily for one night stands, but that fucks up your head at a very base level in your brain. You're in your lizard brain, in your hind brain. It fucks up everything because you think you deserve better when you really don't. That's the guys that most of these women have had in their early to mid 20s are those guys who never call back, who never text back. And that's because those guys are so above these women in terms of where they are in the sexual marketplace. Because women, you guys got to remember, they always want better than what they are. They want a guy who's better than them, like in height, in money. They want a guy who's smarter than them. In every single metric, they want a guy who's better than them. Especially when it comes to one-night stands. So when it comes to a one-night stand, a woman will always pick a guy who's like 2 or 3 points above her. And then Jedediah, at least you can give her the credit for at least settling down at some point. She wanted kids, so she's like, okay, let me just grab the closest beta male who's willing to settle down with me, is gonna listen to me, and is gonna be my little pet. She said it previously in the previous episode that he helps her with her studio and sets things up. So he's basically an assistant. He's her sidekick. She wanted basically a beta male type of guy, and she got it right before her eggs would completely expire. And they probably have a couple of kids, I would imagine. So she played the game successfully. She probably banged, the hot guys at the foam cannon party, as Rollo Tomasi says. And then she ended up she ended up marrying this guy at 29, right before last call. And now she gets to sit on this show and pretend that she didn't do all that. And I've led a very traditional life, Rollo. I've only had sex with one man in my life, ever. Cap.
Dynamic. That's just my opinion. That's what I've chosen.
I've said this in the past, is that like human beings are promiscuous by nature, but we are monogamous by necessity. Right. We have to be monogamous in order to parentally invest in our offspring, which are very fragile. That are going to die if we don't do that. So we have to have monogamy. Is it? People always give me this. Well, promiscuity is the natural way. Mm-hmm. Okay, monogamy is the natural. Okay, yeah, both. It just kind of depends on where that guy is and where that woman is at that time. Right. Do I want to breed with this guy, or do I want it's cads versus dads in that sense? But what because people are going to ask me this, so I might as well head you off at the pass here, which is they're going to say, well, today's women are like so much more promiscuous than men are. Yeah, like if you go and you look at the general survey study, which keeps coming up, guys aren't having sex, but women are still having sex almost at the same rate as they've always been. They're not having sex with older guys. They're just having sex they're just sharing the hot alpha guy. That's what essentially what they're doing. So women are promiscuous. Or you can say, well, what about women on OnlyFans? What about women on Instagram? What about pornography actresses? What about them? Are they invested in everyone that they have sex with? Mm-hmm. No, because they have to be conditioned past that natural innate instinct to want to be invested in that. So it comes. There's also
model too. Like that's different. The
firmware is to be emotionally invested in who you're having sex with, but that firmware can be overridden by the software. which is it's just an act, which is just casual sex. This is all we're doing. It's sports fucking, right? We're just having it's an act is what it ends up being. And so you can condition any animal, but you can condition human beings to get past innate revulsion to where the point where they eroticize things that should not even be. You're like, oh, I would never. That's your fetish. Ooh, how weird, right? Well, the reason why that seems weird to us is because we still have the natural revulsion to which that other person who gets off on whatever that is has pushed himself past. Anything can become normal, and anything can become a fetish.
Right. Well, I want to do a quick funny one, and then I want to get to something where Tate and I disagree, and I'm very curious to get your take on this because it does involve a component of parenting. I know you're a dad. He's not a dad as of yet, so it'll be an interesting parallel. But this is funny, and I actually had a friend send this to me, and it like irritated her in the worst
Leah
way.
Halpern, my favorite. I did a show with her too.
A friend of mine, no joke, sent this to me and was like, I can't stand this guy. How could he say this? And I looked, no joke, last night at the table at my husband, and I said, this is me. I do that. This is 100% true. So let's play it, Tyler.
I don't like traveling the world with women. I think it's one of the most frustrating.
I want to show you a side hustle.
We
These
got him with an
motherfuckers
ad.
don't have YouTube Premium.
Let it go through.
Here we
Or
go.
at least get ad block.
Okay, imagine you had to travel around the world and you had to take a 3-year-old with you. You'd be like, now you go, where's my 3-year-old? Has it 8? I have to make sure they're safe. Got to bring all their stuff. It's exactly the same with the chick. Me and my brother, we're Spartan, right? We can just go, rock up at an airport. There's no flight for 11 hours. Sleep in the airport terminal. Don't eat. Don't sleep. One bag on our back. Old school soldiers. We don't care. With a chick, it's all, I need food. I need water. Where's my stuff? My case is 55 kilo. Oh, I forgot this foundation. I need to find this foundation.
And listen,
Facts.
I laughed, and I'm one of those people like who can own up to my own. That's me. Like I cannot just, I'm not spontaneous about things like that. I want my water. Not only do I want my water, it's got to be a certain type of water. I prepare my little food to take on the air. I mean, to go on a trip with me is annoying. I had my husband looking for gluten-free pasta.
Going on a trip with women is annoying. I've traveled with women and it's fucking annoying. It's not just her. Women in general, it's annoying to travel with a chick.
in Italy is all I'm going to say.
All the things that Tate just described were 100% accurate.
So you got to know yourself, right? But this is the type of thing that now immediately my friend zeroed in on. He's calling women children. I said, no, he's not. He's just using an example saying if you had a kid, if you had a woman, it's a very similar pattern. It's true.
It's like a child.
True. She couldn't get past that language though, to being compared to a child.
Yeah, they just get stuck on the language instead of looking at the idea or arguing the points. They just get stuck on the delivery or how it was said.
Was triggered, and from there on in couldn't assess the reality, which is that she too needs a certain type of water to get on an airplane. It's just true.
It's just okay. So I have a this is not in any book, by the way. I have an essay that really triggered a lot of women, but it's guys as well. I wrote this essay, and the title of the essay was "Never Take a Woman Fishing." And it's like very similar to this, is because a lot of guys, the reason why I wrote it was because a lot of guys that I knew at the time were trying to find some way to have to drag their girl into like their hobbies, right? Or to bring them don't take a girl bowling, right? Whatever your thing is, unless she expresses an interest and actually fishing, you're not going to catch fish. You're not there to do the activity. You're there to introduce that girl to the activity that you love in the hopes that maybe she'll like to love it too. And then that's something you will have in common that you can do. You have to, like I said, this is like, you have to take a hands-off approach. If you like fishing, for example, that girl has to go, wow, I've always wanted to go fishing. Can I go fishing with you? Like if she's asking, then yeah. What I'm saying is like, don't drag her along to go fishing.
If a girl likes you enough, she'll want to partake in the activities that you like. If for example, if a chick likes you enough, even if she doesn't like watching the UFC fights, because you like watching the UFC fights, she's going to want to watch the UFC fights. She's going to want to do things with you that you like to do.
And it's very similar to what he's saying right here. Now, the thing that I think a lot of people like sort of misinterpret is, because this is a hot take in the manosphere of the red pill, is that women are like children. And in a sense, they are. and not in the sense of like, oh, I got to coddle her and I got to do things for her. What it is an evolution.
They have to be taken care of. They like being taken care of. Matter of fact, not all women, of course, there are exceptions, but women in general like being taken care of. They're more emotionally driven, like children. Not saying that they are children. They're not. Of course, they're adults. We're talking about grown women. But there are characteristics that are similar to characteristics of children. But they get stuck on the fact that they don't like how that sounds. So they don't even think about the argument, and they don't try to even come up with any counter arguments. Well, you're a misogynist, you're sexist. I don't like what you said. Instead of like thinking about, okay, some of what you said makes sense. Maybe I don't disagree with this. So let's talk about this. No, instead it's like label sexist, misogynist. Oh, you bad person.
Evolutionary sense, because men have that protector instinct, because women are the
we do, and we want to protect women. I have this natural instinct to protect females. I protected women from like random situations. One time I have video of this. I will put it on my vlog channel one day, or maybe I'll put it on this channel. If you guys want to see it, put it in the comments section. I want to see some comments. If I get enough comments asking for it, I'll put it up. One time I saved this chick from this guy. I was staying at this Airbnb. It was this house that was divided up. Every room was its own Airbnb. So I was upstairs. This was in Glendale, California. I'm on the second floor. On the first floor, I hear some woman crying, like screaming, and I hear thumping, like thump, thump, thump against the wall. So I go downstairs. I have this whole thing recorded on my iPhone. And I knock the door, and then this big fucking dude comes out. Turns out he's like some kind of some boxer. He said his name on the camera. We'll put up the vlog one day. And he's apparently bashing his girlfriend's head into the wall. And I had to make him leave. And this is probably a guy who would be like maybe my weight, but maybe a weight class above mine, but he was jacked. And I had to do what I had to do to get him out of there. And this was a random woman. I didn't expect anything from her. And there's several other occasions where I've protected random women. And then even thinking about it after, I was like, why did I do that? I risked my life doing that. I could have lost my life, or I could have gotten hurt. But I did it anyways. And not to mention the things I had to do to protect the girls that I've been with personally. Well, that's just expected. But now I was talking about a random female that I had to protect. And there's been many, many stories like this. But we as men have a natural instinct and urge to protect women. So there's nothing wrong with that. And you can use that analogy, the same child analogy in that situation as well. Because we also, as men, we like to protect children. That's why pedos and creeps, even in jail, are not safe. And rightfully so. Because men, even the criminal level men, have this natural instinct to protect women and children. That's why the R-wordists, I don't want to say the word, and the pedos, they're kept separately in jail from the rest of the population. Because those guys get their asses kicked. And that's because men have a natural instinct and urge to protect women and children. And so that's another similarity. And now if you guys want to get offended by that, then that's your problem.
You said you're very proud of the fact that you gave birth, right? I mean, but that's the thing is like you're the incubator of the next generation. Mm-hmm. So in order for the human species to survive, for us to be the apex species on this planet, there has to be a dynamic between men and women where men instinctively want to protect women. That they want to put themselves in front of bullets in an active shooting situation, right? They instinctively want to provide, protect, and be parentally invested in, potentially anyways, be parentally invested in that woman. So what happens is women, being the vulnerable sex, have this sort of, for men, they look to women as something that they have to protect, almost in the same way that women have to protect children. So it goes men, women, children as far as the protection order goes. And so for women to get that protection from men that they have needed for, millennia, to get that, there has to be some sort of dynamic between the woman and the man. And so what happens is I'm fragile, my kids are fragile, and I've got to have more babies because for, in our ancestral past, women had either one baby or they were about to have the next one. And so they are vulnerable to, the environment, to animals, to whatever else that's going on out there. There's starvation. That's the provisioning side of things. So women have to take on almost childlike aspect for men to want to protect that woman. And this is a very well studied. I can give you the research for it. But guys have this innate protector dynamic, or this psychology to want to protect women. When a woman cries, it's a much different dynamic than when a man cries. We go, man the fuck up, stop being a pussy kind of thing. Whereas when a woman cries, we're like, what's wrong? Or if a baby cries, we're like, oh my God, something's wrong with the baby. There's a snake in the crib, right? We want to find out what's going on and solve the problem. Whereas for men, when they have like when men are emotional, we think of it as weakness. When women are, we want to protect. And that's why there's that sort of childlike dynamic between men and women.
I think the people who get
that's exactly what I was talking about. And I have not seen this, but I understand these things at a fundamental level. I haven't studied them like Rollo has, but because I'm a brilliant individual, I just know these things.
Something like that, or deeply insecure, is just because I'm not insecure, right? I'm not worried that, oh, he's calling me a child. I'm intellectually weak. I know I can sit and I can, go toe to toe with anyone, of any gender, and have a good debate. And I'm confident in my intellect, and I'm confident in what I bring to the table. But I'm also willing to acknowledge that I'm like a small child on a trip. I am. So it's just a reality. So I think that the problem is that a lot of the people.
I appreciate her honesty there. She's not exactly honest about her past, but that's okay. We'll let it slide for
people
now.
That get triggered by this content, be they men or be they women, are just deeply insecure. They feel very much threatened by messaging that, one, could be critical of them because they're not hardwired to handle criticism. And they're also threatened by messaging that calls them to be greater than they are, because it's hard, right? It's very, very hard to tell. If I'm sitting here and I'm saying to women, stop being promiscuous, it's not doing you any favors. I'm not saying that because I dislike women. I'm saying that because I love women, and I know the beauty that it is to be a female that has that self-respect. And
But these women these days, they think it's empowering to sleep with loads of guys. They think it's empowering to get tons and tons of dick from guys who don't respect these girls. They're not worth shit. But it is what it is.
Brings to the table in terms of a dynamic between a relationship and a man and a woman and society at large. So it's coming from a good place. That doesn't mean you're going to receive it well, though, if you're deeply insecure and you've spent the last 3 weeks sleeping with a bunch of guys that don't mean anything and you're insecure about that decision. So I think that it's
They all feel bad. All these women who sleep around a lot, that's why they're depressed and popping pain pills or mental health medication. 1 in 4 of them are on some kind of SSRI or Xanax or fucking all other kinds of shit. 1 in 4 women in the West are on some kind of mental health medication because they're not happy, because they know this kind of lifestyle, the Sex and the City shit where they fuck tons of guys with no emotional attachment. It makes them depressed.
triggering.
And it makes the men jaded. The guys at the top who get all the action, it makes them jaded. I certainly feel jaded at this point.
People for the right reasons. They're uncomfortable with it, and the lash out is ban this guy, ban these people, shut them up. They're making me self-reflect on something that I know I'm doing that's not great. Whether it's about working out, getting to the gym, not being dependent on big pharma drugs, whatever it is, it's all problematic for the weak of mind. And that's where we are today, unfortunately. There's one area. Yeah, go ahead, Rolla.
Between emotionalism and empiricism.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
that's really what it boils down to. Let me this is actually I thought of this passage that I have. This is my 4th book. I'll just read it's really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Every religion, social philosophy, or sexual strategy is grounded in working with these 2 instincts: the female instinct to submit and the male instinct to protect. Traditional conservatives, tradcons, is an attempt to maximize the male protective instinct through indoctrination and social learning for the benefit of women. Feminism is an attempt to minimize the female submissive instinct, also through social indoctrination, to enable women to more ruthlessly exploit the male protective instinct. The red pill is an attempt to teach men to selectively suppress the male protective instinct to avoid its exploitation by women who are
Hang on.
conditioned not to be submissive through feminism or gynocentrism.
Whoa.
Like
hold on. I gotta
also,
listen to that
feminism
again.
through indoctrination and sociology is grounded in really quick. This is actually I thought of this passage that I have. This is my fourth book. I'll just read. It's really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Every religion, social philosophy, or sexual strategy is grounded in working with these two instincts: the female instinct to submit and the male instinct to protect. Traditional conservatives, tradcons, is an attempt to maximize the male protective instinct through indoctrination and social learning for the benefit of women. Feminism is an attempt to minimize the female submissive instinct, also through social indoctrination, to enable women to more ruthlessly exploit the male protective instinct. The red pill is an attempt to teach men to selectively suppress the male protective instinct to avoid its exploitation by women who are conditioned not to be submissive through feminism or gynocentrism.
Rolo dropping some straight truth bombs. Man, that really made me think. Should I repress my natural urges to protect women? Because what did I get out of protecting that woman? What if this boxer dude was really good? I mean, I'd been training MMA at that point in my life, but I had only been training for a year. And I wasn't that good at that time. Now I can handle myself pretty good. But maybe what if that guy was better? He knocked me out and stomped on my head. Or he pulled out a knife or a gun and shot me. What did I get for saving that woman's life? A thank you. She did say thank you. But before she left, I made the guy leave, and she left the next morning. Before she left, like, she didn't even knock on my door and be like, hey, thank you. Would you like some breakfast or something? Or can I get you something from Subway? Nope, nothing. So I risked my life, and she couldn't even get me a sandwich from Subway. So was it really worth it? Are these chicks even grateful? Do they just expect a man to protect them? What do they do in return? That's the question. Would she come and save my life if a dude was stomping on my head and I was getting my head bashed in the wall? Would she come upstairs to save me? I don't know. I'm not sure. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.